We've got a lot of rewards coming up in the Operation Catch Stake event, including 2 5-star hero selectors, as well as 2 5-star artifact selectors, 1 limited hero selector, and 1 limited artifact selector. So this video is going to go over what you should probably pick for all of those selectors. One thing to keep in mind is that we are also getting 3 5-star hero summon tickets and 2 5-star artifact summon tickets. These are RNG, but depending on the order these selectors come in, you might want to wait and see what you get from the 5-star tickets before you use your selectors. And also, they are removing the selective summon from episode 1 and episode 3 and replacing it with a 5-star hero selector as well as a 5-star artifact selector for both episodes 1 and episode 3. So if you're looking for, let's say, a single Sigurd Scythe, you don't have to take it from your selector, you could just get it from the episode 1 5-star artifact selector as well. So you do want to keep in mind whether or not the things that you want will be available in either of these selectors. And then one more thing is, what the hell does max mean? Because I've seen people say that this means that it's a fully deck selector, like they did for Epic Dash, where the unit comes plus 15 max awaken, level 60. I'm not sure about that for a couple of reasons. One, it's using a different icon from their fully deck selector. That one had the little red arrows, though they also did cheap out on making new icons for limited selectors. The shiny ones are normally just 5-star selectors, non-limited, and they reuse the shiny ones for limited. So that maybe might be a thing. The thing that confuses me more is for the equipment that we're getting, it says plus 15 max. Plus 15 already implies max for gear. And then it also says max for the epic equipment selection chests, and also the random tickets are max. So are we going to get, like, are you just gonna roll the dice and you end up with a plus 15 Tamarin or something? I have no idea what's going on there. I don't really know what a max artifact really implies. Like, it just comes plus 15 without needing the artifact EXP. I'm going to assume that they're not like fully deck selectors and everything, but maybe they are. I don't know. So let's start off with the normal hero selector, the non-limited one. A couple of things to go over first is these units are free. If anybody told you to take these units, they are trolling you, and please do not take them. Also, based off the rules that Smilegate has had for selectors for the past 6 years, any units that were released in the past 6 months should not be available, which should cover Fene and maybe Schneel. If they are available for some strange reason, especially Fene, because they literally have a pack for Fene and maybe they just hate money, Fene would be S tier and Schneel would be like somewhere in A or B tier. It depends on who you ask, really. And also, we do have a balance patch coming up. Litica is in that balance patch. Very strong on paper, but do need to let people test her if you do plan on picking her just in case. So let's start off with S tier. Number 1 is Mort. Mort is just insanely strong. Arena, Guild War, offense and defense, RTA everywhere. He is in the episode 3 selective summon though, so he should be available in the 5-star selector as well for episode 3, so you could consider picking him up from there instead. Crow, really good mitigation knight. You can run him on Holy Sack or Adamant, but because he has a built-in Aureus, he's pretty good all around. Might get a little bit weaker with the RGB Frenzy getting removed from RTA, but should still be a really good pick. And then Celine, non-attack skill, counter pick. Her usage kind of skyrocketed last season. She kind of flicks like in and out of the meta, but Smilegate seems to like keeping her updated as a non-attack counter unit. So she's still pretty good to use, I would say. And then there's Genua. Genua, if you're looking at just RTA, he probably goes down a little bit, but he's really, really good for Arena and Guild War if you have ML Paladus. So I think he's pretty worthy of having this spot just because there's so many offense comps right now that use him. He's just a really strong DPS that punches through a lot of things, especially since a lot of the stuff on defense right now is insanely bulky. There's also Eligos, who is really, really strong, but also incredibly hard to gear. You need really fast speed DPS gear, and you also need, like, to have his artifact plus 30, ideally. So it's just, anybody who's looking at this who's a newer player or even just a mid-game player is probably not going to be able to do this. And he's also a cleave only unit anyways. We have Litica. You can take a look at her buffs in the stove post, and also just on Wednesday they'll be in the game. She looks really, really strong on paper. Hard to say exactly how strong because sometimes units look really strong on paper and then there's specific interactions to make them not so strong. She's probably at worst A tier, potentially S tier is my guess, but we don't really know yet, so I'm just leaving her here. Knockwool is a little bit too inconsistent for me to put her in S tier. She has a lot of struggles with just being able to get all of her debuffs down. And also for Arena and Guild War, I feel like the other openers, like Peyra, Luna, Paladus, technically Harsetti, all just end up being better than Aqua most of the time. I don't really use her anymore for offense. So she's here, she's still pretty good. It's just not as good as before, I think. And then here, honestly, I feel like there is a big gap after Knockwool. Paladus and Elena are both kind of counterpick units for RTA. It's just 4 or 5 picks for anybody who drafts really badly. You can use them to punish. Elena in particular kind of struggles right now because Elagos is single target cleave, and then if you're fighting like the Zeo cleave, then Zeo is single target. Politica is like 200F on the restrict EE, so you're just gonna get restricted. And maybe she works into Litica, but if Litica hits you, you get, what is it, bind, and you can't use S2 anyways. So she has a lot of issues, but decent 4-5. Elvira is mostly for Arena Guild War, I think. I think she's really good in Guild War right now because you still see Abyssal Euphine on a lot of defenses, and I use her a pretty good amount in Arena too. For RTA, you like pick her to rope people or just for the anti-fighting spirit. So she's not like an instant win into fighting spirit units or anything. Abigail, I think, is really nice for Arena Guild War, just for some of these teams. Like, if you're still running the Immortal team with BBK Amiki, still works into some defenses. Abigail MLK Ron is a really common offense team at this point. So she's just really nice for anything where you want to protect a single unit in the backline, and is relatively, I don't know about future-proof, but if they release more units that fit that sort of niche, she's still going to be really good for it. And then Alencia is kind of a Mort alternative. I usually keep her just one tier below Mort, mostly with young Senya, because Mort works by himself a decent amount. Alencia kind of really wants young Senya. She does do injury, so if you're missing like MO Shu or something, she can be a injury replacement with your DDR or something, but usually people just run Solitaria anyways. So she's not like super strong, she's just pretty good. I do use her a decent amount, but I do also think you really want young Xenia to have Alencia be good. We've also got Elena and Chloe. These two are mainly just for no Fene Rift. I have Elena listed at A in both, but this is just specifying that if you want to do no Fene Rift, Elena is mandatory. Chloe you can live without, but Chloe makes your runs a lot easier, so she's potentially worth picking up. You could also just opt to skip the Rift because nothing wrong with farming Wyvern. So yeah, if you want to do no Fene Rift, these two are worth looking at, especially Elena. And then we have the B tier. These units are all pretty niche, I would say. Yolha is only for Guild War, really. I use her pretty often in Guild War. She soaks up damage from Flan and potentially kills her with the Reflect, depending on how the fight plays out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Destina healer, I don't think her buffs do anything for her. They make her slightly better at what she already does, but she wasn't like super good or anything, so she's just staying here in B tier. She's a healer slash cleanser that does a lot of healing, and that's about it. Rowana is a unit I used to put pretty high, but I feel like I'm using her less and less just because there's other options to deal with counterattack units and whatnot. And then she also just doesn't work into some of the units that use counterattacks and extra attacks. So She's just kind of here. You'll still see some usage for her here and there, but she's definitely not nearly as good as she was before, especially because you don't even need her in PvE anymore, because you can just use Brieg and Tamarin for Ice Expedition. Payra and Ran, opener buddies. These two units are also going to be pretty hard to gear for most people, and there's a lot of stronger openers at this point. But if you have spare gear or just a lack of unit options, these two are a choice pretty much just for RTA. Euphine is a Jacko side grade. We don't know if Guilty Gear is ever coming back, but she is side grade Jacko, potentially your only option if you don't have Jacko yet. Also, the might as well mention she is the best Banshee 13 one-shot unit now, even better than Baiken. Arya is very sad, I think. Them removing RGB Frenzy is really rough for specifically Arya, because Arya forces every single unit to hit her, and when you're fighting into stuff like Flan and Tori, if Tori just soulburn S1s and one-shots you, what are you gonna do? She had this issue against Genua before, even with the RGB Frenzy, and Tori does a ridiculous amount of damage, so I think Arya is going to be pretty sad after the Frenzy buffs. Maybe somebody cooks something up for her. She's still kind of usable in Guild War here and there, though, and has the potential. Maybe they'll buff her or something. They could just give her the damage reduction back, and maybe she'll be usable again. So she's at the very bottom of B tier. And then there is also the Speed Imprint Mildred for anybody who likes cleaving. And that's it for the normal selectors. If your unit is not listed here, they are probably bad. I am very sorry. Some PvE mentions, I guess. Like, there's Ball and Sezin for Earth Expedition, and then there's also Cecilia for also Earth Expedition. Questionably valuable. Rolling a 5-star, or using a selector on your 5-star just to make your expeditions better. But if you really want to, then go for it. That's about it, really. Now we've got the normal artifact selector tier list. Song of Stars will be free after the update, so if somebody told you Song of Stars, you're getting trolled. Also, this is Schneel artifact, this is Fene artifact. These should both not be available, probably. First up is Windrider. This is loosely sorted, by the way. It's not like exactly in this order. First up is Windrider. Windrider is really good for any DPS thieves. The attack boost on your next hit after you get a kill, and also the stealth can be really good for both protection and also just offense. The Tori is one of the main users for this, who is a really strong unit right now. I can't think of any other thieves off the top of my head, but this has historically been a strong DPS thief artifact ever since they buffed it like a couple of years ago. Secret Scythe is the Warrior Bruiser artifact. Right now, ML Ken, ML Hua Young, really any Warrior Bruiser that needs sustain uses this. Attack Scalers. They also buffed it recently where you get some of the value, even when you're not below 50%, which makes it a lot more consistent of an artifact to use, just because sometimes you don't drop below half, but they can't just fully ignore you. I mean, they can, but you do get a little bit of attack now. So that's nice. This is definitely worth picking up. Based off of the first selective summon, these should both be available in there. So that's something worth keeping in mind, assuming they keep the exact same pool. Bird's Eye View gives you souls after using a non-attack skill. So this is very, very nice. One thing to keep in mind is that you do still get, like, you're going to put this on somebody, say like Frida, you're going to have souls by the time you need to soul burn, so you never really need this artifact plus 30. Like, even if you're using it on an opener, let's say we have a Soul Weaver opener, your S3 is going to generate 3, potentially 2 souls. Even if it only generates 2 souls, you only need a plus 24 artifact then, because that'll be 18 souls. So just make sure that you're not overcapping your artifact. If you're using it for a specific setup, you should check how many souls you need. For some setups, you might only need it plus 15 if anything. And then there is Renewed Will. This artifact is really good, but also a pain in the ass because it procs individually on each ally for its CR push, so it kind of ruins your tuning if you don't have a plus 30, because if you miss the proc, your tuning is gone. It's not like you miss it on everybody. It would be more consistent if it was that way, but it is what it is. Still really good artifact either way. Besides the CR push, you get a little attack boost for all allies, which is nice. There's also Holy Sack, really good for knights. It does need plus 30 for consistency, but especially with stuff like Crow having a built-in Aureus, or if you just want to use it on knights to get focused down, like a Malsenia, those are some potential options. Really good. I also use it on Yoha for Guild War, and Abyssal Euphidine uses it sometimes too. So then there is A tier. These artifacts get a little bit more specific, though they're still pretty good. Like Shepherd of Chaos is good for any evasion-based thief. BBK uses it, is the most common wielder, I would say. And then also Rylet for those who have him. And also have Amalpera, because he kind of needs Amalpera to be usable. This is good on both of those units. Sword Art Storm Sword? I forget the name of this every single time. This is mainly Selene's artifact. It just synergizes so well with her. If somebody uses it on attack skill, she gets the attack buff, CR pushes, then her S2 CR pushes more. It does everything you would want for her, and the effect is technically good for any thief, really. There's just not really any other thieves that really need this right now. It also CR pushes like a lot more than you would expect. So it's definitely pretty nice. Mainly, besides Selene, I only really see it to cheese people on arena defense. Like, you'll see like Sword Art BBK or something ridiculous. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess. So the usage for this, besides Selene, I can't say is very high. But it's 24% CR push. Like, it's a ridiculous amount of CR push. Could be useful in the future, potentially, or just if you like cheesing people. Abyssal Crown, the mage stun artifact, very annoying. Works on a good amount of units. Saltaria, Harseti, Tank Paladus. Yeah, it's just the mage stun artifact. Bastion of Perlucia. I've heard its usage went down a little bit after Ross got buffed. So you're kind of just using this as a substitute for prot set immunity on on 2 units now. But it's still nice here and there, especially since they buffed it ages ago to work on the frontline unit now. Barrier plus immunity on 2 units. It can be very good in some situations. Basket, the other DPS thief artifact, especially if you don't self-attack buff. This lets you do a ton of damage. So it's pretty good on units like BBK or Arbiter Vildred. BBK gets attack buff after her S3, so this would boost your S3 and potentially give you greater attack buff as well. Rise of Monarch is just for MLL1AB. If you have her, this is probably worth picking up at least 1 copy of. She cycles so fast that she makes pretty good usage of the shield effect, more so than any other knights can. This is Elagos' already. This is just if you have Elagos and you want Elagos Cleave, you probably already know that you should be picking this up, but this is just here. Unseen Observer, 10 souls after using a non-attack skill. It's nice for some thieves, like Amalpaldus can use it in some situations. It's just, yeah, it's a pretty decent artifact. This is another Amalpaldus artifact. Gives you effectiveness and also a chance to give stealth to the unit in the back line. A more defensive artifact, I would say, but also a good option. This is the other Warrior Bruiser artifact, Golden Rose. It gives you damage boost when you're above 50% HP, and then healing when you're below 50%. Since you don't get a damage boost when you're in the healing zone, you heal for a bit less, but also generic damage boost means it works a little bit better on bruisers that aren't attack scalers, because Sigurd's gives all of its scaling in attack. Problem is pretty much all of the good bruisers right now, besides Designer Lilibet probably, are all attack scalers, for bruisers anyways. So this artifact is still decent, just not that good right now, I think. Celestine, Bloodmoon Haste. Though he also uses POV. This is just a potential option. Elbrus Ritual Sword. ML Euphine uses this, and some people have started using ML Landy again recently, so she also uses this. This is just the generic thief counterattack artifact. Could go up in value if they release more counterattack thieves. Could go down in value if they release more things that counter counters. But this is just, yeah, it's for counterattacking thieves. Bloodstone and Rekos, these two I kind of just have here because I personally use them a lot. I don't think they're like that good, but Bloodstone, well, if you love Expedition, Kana uses it for Earth Expedition. I use mine on Flan for Arena, but that's like Arena specific tech because I always have attack buff on my Flan, so I don't need her artifact. I'd rather have Sustain. Rekos, I think if you are an Arena player, is actually really, really strong. On Young Senya or on DDR, having Rekos is really nice. It's just the most consistent healing you'll get. And then we've got the limited hero selector. The usual rule they do for limiteds is they need to have rerun before they'll be available for the custom group summon, which should also apply to the selector. So I would imagine that these 5 won't be available. Kind of sucks because these latter 4 units are pretty strong, but we will get to pick from the rest of these guys. There's honestly a pretty big level of just personal preference for what you want to pick here, honestly. We can start off with Diane. They buffed her recently. She is pretty decent now. Her S3, full cleanse, Penres, anti-crit, and then S2, attack buff and barrier, and also with the CR push. Still our very fast cycling unit with a ton of buffs. Definitely a decent pickup. Works decently with Tori, I think. Debuffs are kind of insanely strong. And she does cleanse, but she also is pretty weak to just being run over if they just drop everything on you at once and kill you. Laya is another cleanser option. Definitely a lot weaker than she used to be, but still a pretty decent option as a cleanser. Though she also did just have a banner. So if you are a brand new player, that's probably the only reason why you wouldn't have her. Anyone who was playing while Laya's banner was here should probably have her already. Blooming Litica, Cleave unit. You kind of need Zeo, but with Litica's buffs, maybe you could do double Litica, because Litica can proc Blooming Litica. That remains to be seen, but she does work pretty well as a debuffer. And yeah, last season people were doing Zeo, Blooming Litica, and Malteo pretty frequently, stuff like that. She's just one of the many options you can pick around your Zeo. Landy and SSB are both in the getting buffed, don't know where they'll land tier. I believe in Landy a little bit more than SSB, but we'll see how it goes. Landy, her buff is mainly in her artifact. Her artifact is getting buffed to basically give her better stealth and more consistent, and also giving her greater attack buff. So should be pretty good. Doesn't need plus 30, but that we'll see where she ends up. And then there's SSB. Her buff is making her get what is it? She's getting like 30 or 40% damage reduction. And then also her S3 got like a strip or whatever, and her main artifact getting buffed. So we'll see where she lands as well. It's kind of hard to say. It depends on how she interacts with the other units in the meta. And also, I guess if you care about Wyvern 13 one-shot, SSB is pretty good for that. There are other options for the 4-man one-shots, which would be Arya and Clarissa, though if you're trying to 3-man one-shot, SSB is where it's at. And then there is A tier. These units are still see some usage, just a bit more situational and not as frequently. Holiday Euphine, good cleanser into Blooming Litica, because you can just dodge all her stuff and then you can push up and attack buff and cleanse everything. So she's mainly just a Blooming Litica counter, from what I've been told. Gall Lilius, she is a little bit sad because a lot of the units right now build way too much bulk for her to actually kill. And also, she is weak to Penres. There's also her PvE usage has been reduced a little bit because you can now just use Fene with Emil Hall Young or some other option team comps for Nightmare Juleave, but she's still a decent pickup. Fairy Tale Tenebria, people have been using as a book holder for ML Lua comps, so she's a decent 4-5 if you want to pick her up. Seaside Asaria, this unit needs her artifact to function as well. She can be used potentially, and with the new Frenzy buffing bomb mode lot, maybe she sees even more usage. I'm just going to keep her here for now though. And then down here is like kind of the defs. This whole C tier is like pretty much useless. Cerise is good in Light Expedition, but it's not really worth building and molding her when there's other options now. But let's get back to B tier real quick. Lulacar is very sad. She just doesn't do enough anymore. She's supposed to be a cleanser, but she can kind of just get run over, and she doesn't really cleanse enough. And people can just deal with her S2 as well too. And also ML Paul just cuts her focus. So yeah. And then Amit is just another opener, but there's a lot of openers that are better than her. And now lastly, the limited artifact selector. These 5 artifacts should not be available, assuming they follow their rule as usual. Starting off with S tier, Sweet Miracle. Its banner just passed, but if you want one more, or if you're a new player and you missed it, this is definitely worth picking up. This artifact that was on so many warriors. ML Pera, ML Cowrick, ML Shu, Laya, Conqueror Lilius, probably some future warriors. Its effect is just way too good. The free tank stats on the HP, and even without that, the being able to reduce debuff duration by 1 turn is very, very nice. There's also Soul Consolation. This artifact gives you some effect resistance and also CR push when the enemy uses a non-attack skill. Diane and Simple Angelica are some users of this. Pretty nice effect, especially if you don't have Guardian Ice Crystals. And definitely worth picking up if you don't have a copy yet. Guiding Light is Guiding Light. This thing goes on like every Ranger opener almost. So yeah, very, very good pickup. Emalua. I can't think of anybody else. But Ranger openers, some exceptions are like if you know you're going first, like if you're Elagos cleaving, if you're not going first, you're dead anyways. Elagos doesn't really use this. Wall of Order and Drink are Landy and SSBs, artifacts that also work on those units. Both of these want plus 30. I would say Wall of Order more so than Drink, just because they both need plus 30 to 100% proc, but missing a Wall of Order proc sounds way worse than missing a Drink proc to me. Wall of Order gives you stealth at the end of your turn. It doesn't give you it at the start of combat like Guiding Light does, but when Landy's buffs, she's getting it at the start of combat naturally. So this just becomes better than Guiding Light for her because this procs every turn instead of every 2 turns. So if you get hit out of your stealth, you're not just a sitting duck for 2 turns. And also the chance to get greater attack buff can be very high payoff. And then Drink is just extra damage dealt based on attack after you attack. Very basic effect. They are buffing. It's scaling a little bit. We don't know by how much. But these 2 artifacts largely depend on whether or not Landy and SSB are actually good. The Wall of Order has potential to be used on some other units, but Drink is pretty much SSB only. And then we have Fairy Tale of a Nightmare for a Nightmare. I think it's of a Nightmare. This artifact is also getting buffed. Its strip chance and fixed damage is going up. Unfortunately, Fallen Cecilia is also getting buffs. The fixed damage part might not matter if you're fighting into her. But this artifact is pretty good for mages. The strip effect and the extra damage is really nice for anybody who has extra attacks. Solitaria, I've seen Harsetti use this before. I don't think it's that good, but Solitaria is one of the main users, and any other units that end up having, or any other mages that end up being able to spam AoE extra attacks could also use this as well. And this is Blooming Lydica's artifact. You need this if you're using Blooming Lydica, so definitely worth a pick up if you plan on using her. Star of the Deep Sea is Bomb artifact for Rangers. Seaside Asaria and Emil Flan are the 2 main users of this. So this is definitely worth picking up if you plan on using either of those. This artifact, people say, needs plus 30. Uh, Even at plus 30, it's not consistent to 15%. So plus 30 is nice, it does become more consistent, but it's not in the same, like, needs plus 30 level as these two, I think. Because these two are guaranteed proc once you hit plus 30. This one is not. Though missing a bomb is always very, very sad, regardless of what your level is. And then Champion's Trophy gives you some effectiveness and also a chance to stun. Pretty niche artifact. Some Alpeiras use this. This is HP to the caster. Some bonus damage on your attack, and also if you do an extra attack, it's even more. Only really Alencia uses this. Pretty niche artifact. This is for FRS stacking thieves. Potential option for MLK run for some of the FRS stacking ones in Arena and also Guild War. But also I've seen some BBKs use this before just for the FRS ones. This is just the FRS thief artifact. It's pretty niche, but if that's your jam, you could pick this up. These I'm not even going to waste my time talking about. These guys suck. So that's it for the Selector's tier list. I have no idea what I'm taking for mine because I'm just looking for imprints and limit breaks at this point. Definitely going to let the 5-star tickets come in first if I can, but hopefully this helped anybody who needed it, and I'll see you guys next time.